Hello everyone, Mayfairmast here, and today we have a little bit of a different video. We have part 1 of the build series on the Kongskilde FCT 1460 Trail Forager. The kit is made by Bar, as many of you will already know, and a few of you will be waiting for this kit build series to go live, so I thought we'd best get into gear and start the process. So many of you know Bar, and if you don't, he's also known as Goldplough Farm Moles on Facebook. Also, you can contact him on Instagram and WhatsApp. I'll put a link down in the description so you can find his site easily. But he started doing these kits. He's also done a smaller JF forager in kit form. I'm sure he also does do them built up as well, but can't fully confirm that. So we have this Kongskilde, if that's how you pronounce it, to build as sort of a guide and sort of for you to follow along to build as well. So I'm going to try to do as much as I can on video. There will be a few parts where we'll pause, I'll do a few bits and we'll come back. I won't do it all in one go, it'll probably be a 3-part series. So it gives me a chance to do a few bits, and it also gives you a chance at home to do the same thing. So hopefully by the end of 3 or 4 episodes we'll have a fully built trail forager, and you also will at home. So without further ado, let's get into the kit, and first of all have a look at all the parts at present and things like that. So you should have a sheet of decals, which will be the last thing you'll be going to on the kit. Something that doesn't come with the kit but you'll need is some brass rod for handrails and just for using it as pins to hold things together. So I'm using 1.2 mil rod. You won't need too much, one length of that will do. But if you're buying a pack, it will be handy for other things. And then I'm using 0.81, I'm sure it is, for handrails and smaller pins. Or I would possibly go smaller maybe for the handrails, but it's close to what I've got at the moment, so we're going to go with that for now. But if you have something slightly smaller than 0.8, you can feel free to use that. We have some wheels, and then we'll start at the front. We have the motor for the spout, got the side guard for the pickup. This is the ram for the actual spout itself, for it folding down. These 2 parts are for your pickup hitch. Don't trim off these little bits here, as you will be fitting a spring that goes in there. The hitch won't actually function up and down. If you're clever enough you might be able to do it, but I think I'll glue mine permanently up so I can glue my spring in there. So you also will need some fine wire to curl up and make a spring to suit that gap, but we'll come to that later in the build. We have the part that attaches to the top of the chopper for the spout to swivel on, which then your spout mounts to and pivots on. Your chute, as you want to call it, or whatever you want to call that, because on the end of your spout, the spout we've all been talking about. So your chute will just clip on the end of there. Got your auger for your pickup reel, pickup tines, the actual main frame of the pickup reel head. your pickup reel. These two parts here fit on the drawbar, if you'd like to call it that, on there and on there. You can't get them mixed up, and they have little holes for them to clip onto, which makes it easier for gluing, and you can also get them lined up perfectly. Your drawbar itself, and then your main actual frame. I've already glued the rollers in as they're slightly damaged, but they will clip in. There's two sort of holes that it just slots in. I did have to sand a little bit of this corner on the actual roller itself to get it to clip in nicely, but that'll be one step you'll have to do. But they just clip in. They will need to be hand painted, or you can not clip them in now and paint them separately and then put them in at the end, whichever you prefer you can do. These are two separate parts. Got the main body and the rear part that clips on like so, and then your drawbar mounts onto here, pin through there, and away you go. So they're all the parts you'll need. We will also be adding pipes, oil pipe, things like that, but that'll be in the future, so you can also think about getting them. I'll be using some 5mm flexi, not 5mm, 5 meter of flexi, but it's 0.8mm, same as some of the brass we're using. So that can be something else you can consider to add to your buying list if you have one of these kits and would like to go ahead and build it. But yeah, so that's everything you need. Should all be there. If you don't have any bits or missing a few bits, let Hugh know and he'll sort you out. But for now, we just need to go over the actual kit itself, the holes, so say your pinholes, where a pin actually goes through, so say a pin would run through that last hole there. If your pin doesn't fit, so if your rod doesn't fit through the hole, so we'll use a smaller size for now, an example, so that fits through perfectly. If yours doesn't fit, it's good practice and recommended to actually clean out the holes, or even just run a drill bit through just to clear out the hole. As it's 3D printed, the holes aren't going to be fully perfect all the time. You can't expect that. So if you are struggling and they aren't going together, that is a place to start on. It's also good to test fit things before painting. We won't be assembling too much of the forager before painting it, as it's a lot easier to paint in bits than having to do it all together, as there's a lot of parts that are different colours, etc. But yeah, without further ado, we'll get on to assembling the first parts of the forager, and then we're hopefully ready to get it primed and painted. So then guys, the first thing we're going to do, as most of the kit wants painting as it is, not built up, we're going to mock up most of the kit, so then we can build up our guardrails and things like that. So then we can glue them in, or if you prefer gluing them after and painting them separately, you can do that. I think I'm going to go ahead and make them, glue them in, and they can be painted all as I paint it separately, because just with the small holes already there, and I'm hoping they won't be in the way too much. I should get away with it. We'll find out later on if I do or don't, so keep that in mind, but I'm hoping we should be okay. But I've got a few pictures that I took at Borderway off Hugh stand. So we have a guard at the front above the rollers. We have one to the side near the wheel. the full one that goes out from the pickup reel, and then there's also one that goes from this hole to this hole on either side for the spout as a sort of support. So we're going to use our 0.8mm rod for this, which I'm hoping fits in the holes. It does. It is a little bit slack. You could possibly try the larger, the 1.1mm rod fits a lot nicer, so I think I might actually go with that. So I might scrap that idea on the 0.8 and we might try the 1.1mm rod. You get a nicer snug fit, you'll get a better glue on that. It's also good to know that they go quite far into the model, if you can see there. So you get a good glue, but also when you're measuring for your rails, it's good to consider that, because you might make it to fit only so far and realise when you push it and it goes too far. So that's one thing to consider. I think the first one we're going to go for is the one round the pickup, which will come out to just the edge of the roller, reel if you want to call it that, across, back round and into this hole just here. So I'm going to get a marker and I'm going to put it into the hole just enough. You can sort of see just there, it sort of goes into a little slot just there. I'm going to mark where I need to bend it, do the first bend, mark where I need to bend it again, and then mark where I need to cut it. So we'll get a pen, we'll try a Sharpie for this. So it's not the most accurate way of doing it, but it's the way I like to do it. So we'll mark the end of the reel like so, and then I possibly may even use the Sharpie to bend it round. It sort of varies. You want a sort of nice square edge to bend it round, but nothing too harsh. May try a ruler for now. So we'll get your ruler and just simply bend it over like so, so you get a nice 90-degree bend. You can also make sure you've gone enough or not too far. So you see we've got a bit of a 90-degree bend on it, and then we'll refer back to the pickup reel. We'll slot that in, and if it's also a little bit too long, you could also trim off this end if you're struggling. So you can see that follows the pickup reel frame. So then we'll get our Sharpie again, and we'll mark where we need to bend, which is just about there. And then we'll repeat. You want to make sure you're bending the same way as your initial bend. So, and also that the bends line up. I'll try to get some of it on camera, but you know, it's like you get a little bit carried away, but we'll bend that. So we should end up with something like this. And then, if you really wanted to, run that spare up through this hole. And if you're lucky, that should fit perfectly, like so. Now, it's looking like I might have gone a little bit too much, as it's a little bit bent, but you can measure that length to that length, cut it and you'll get it square, and then you'll have one guardrail. So just off camera, I'll measure that, cut this one to the same, and I'm going to glue that in place. So then guys, first rail is in place, glued in. Now you don't have to glue it in. I have done, and I've tested to see if I can still get, say, the auger in, which goes in this end first. So I can still get that in perfectly, and that's all we need to do there. And then you can just glue on your pickup tines and then your reel. So that's not an issue if you do want to glue that on now. It is totally personal preference. You can paint it separately and glue it on later, and that's just the way I'd like to do that one. Next we'll move on to this rail on the side. Hopefully you can see the phone as well as I can. I'll try and make it as big as possible. So this will be going these two holes here, come out the width of the pickup and across, back in. It looks like it comes out, it's a bit wider there than it is at the holes. So I'm just gonna mock up the reel onto this part of the body, which is a little bit like that. Doesn't have to be perfect, but we can get a rough estimate of how much it wants to stick out. So looking at that, wants to be 1.5 centimeters, that gap there to there, and we're going to add maybe a mil or two that will go into the body. You don't want to forget the bit that goes into the actual body, like I said before, otherwise it'll stick in a little bit too much. So you want to get your brass again, the 1.1, I think it's 1.19 mil, and we'll just see how far it goes in. The end I've cut never seems to go in as well. You may find that it actually goes in at a bit of an angle, so we'll have to tweak that down so it's level, and then need to measure 1.5 from there, a little bit of an angle which we need to not forget about. So we'll get your ruler, remember to do it on the camera, which is a lot more difficult than it looks probably. So we'll measure 1.5, and we'll bend that the right way. See if I can get this right the first time. Get that to your mark and bend that over. Now I've just realised I've done that wrong, so we're not going to do the same as that. See, I've bent that the wrong way, so we'll be clever and bend that like so we've not wasted that bit. So that'll be like that. It'll want a little bit more tweak on it. Don't want it to be a 90-degree bend. It'll want to be a bit more, maybe 100 more, sort of a bit like that. And then we'll fit that back in the hole, and then we'll sort of do a rough estimate. We'll go maybe there, which is, for any of you lot interested, 2 centimeters. Try bend that without the ruler this time. Getting a similar bend. And we'll just trowel that, which don't look far off. You'll just have to put a little tweak on it there. We'll trim that with some snips, and we'll hope that I've done it correctly. It looks like this one's maybe not as deep as the first one, possibly. That's what we're looking like at the moment. A little bit of room for improvement. It's a good thing with brass, you can sort of work it a little bit and get it how you want it. Looks like we need to take a little bit off here. There you go. That's that side guard done. So I'm going to go ahead, do the final one for the front. I'll let you know the measurements when I've got it done, and I'll also do the 2 supports on the spout off camera, just so the video don't get too long for you, and we'll be back. So we are back with some spout supports and the rest of the guards on the main frame. So what you want to do is put maybe a 3mm. After 3mm, you want to put a mark, put a 90 on that, and then you want to be 7.5 centimeters. Put another bend on. I went straight through there, which is, you could say, 1.4 centimeters. Another 90 on bend on that, straight back down, 7.5 centimeters, and maybe a 3mm bend into there. Glued in at this end, that ends one piece. There you go, that's your spout support. Looks spot on. And then your guards on the main body. I think we did this on the video, I can't quite remember, but it wants to come out, say 1.8 centimeters. Also add 2 or 3mm for the part going into the body. You want to put a bend on at that, then go across 2.2 centimeters, and then back in roughly 1.7, 1.8 centimeters, or considering the part going into the body as well. You could make it so it was all sticking up like this, and then bend it down. You can, once you've got it together, you can ram it in and sort of get it looking something like. For the front guard, wants to come out 3 centimeters, and you want to put a soft curved bend on that part. You want to go across roughly 2.5 centimeters, mark it and put another soft bend on there, and then go back to the body around 2.5 centimeters. Test it for you with your pickup, and if it comes out to roughly the same as there, you're about right. If it's too much, trim either end of those parts going to body and you'll be all right. You don't have to make a new one. You can always trim the ends off and you should be fine. So that's probably the most, you could say, time consuming part, but once you got them done, glued in or not glued in if you prefer doing it that way and painting them separately, there you go. So that's those parts done. So now we can go about prepping for paint. You could assemble a few bits for paint, which I'm going to do just to speed up the process. So your pickup, that is going to be as is. I'm not going to put any more bits on that. That is ready for paint. The body itself there, that is ready for paint. So that's those two. The spout, I'm going to add the, wherever it's disappeared to, the ram, which goes like so. I'm going to glue that in place. The glue I'm also using is Blue Top Gorilla Glue. It's probably the go-to glue I use. I do also use this Loctite for sort of gluing things that aren't needed for such strength. I find Gorilla Glue is pretty strong, but you only require a very small amount as the holes are quite tight, which is handy. So we'll pop that in there, like so. Make sure she's square with a spout. So that is now also ready for paint. We don't need to put the end of the chute on, which is here, as that wants to be black. We have, what else do we have? The reel, that can go straight for paint, as that wants to be red. Possibly wants a little bit of tidying up. That is one thing you will have to do. It will vary on certain, everyone else will be different. Some bits will want tidying up more than others. This part, which is the back of the main body, I'm going to paint as it is. I was thinking about attaching the drawbar, which I suppose we could go ahead and attach that, as the drawbar wants to be black too. But you just got to consider when you move it, you got to get paint in here, things like that. So I think I'll paint them separately, but off camera I might put them together once I've painted them. So they're ready to go. Your pickup tines want to be black, so they're ready to go too. What else do we have? Got your ram for the actual fold and unfold of the drawbar. I think we'll leave that off and paint that. We've got the motor for the spout. I'm sure we could actually go ahead and fit that. I don't see why we couldn't fit that on there. I'm sure that attaches like so. I don't see why we can't attach that. So I think we'll attach that to the body. So the body's not ready to go. The pickup hitch, I'm sure we can assemble that and paint that. On the picture I've got a fuse, he hasn't put it on, so I think it'll be black, but don't quote me, we can come back to that. And also the end cap for the pickup reel wants painting separately, as this longer part here holds on the auger like so, so that goes through the body into the auger. It just wants drilling out a little bit. So I think, and the swivel for the spout, I'll paint that separately as well, because you don't want the paint to sort of glue itself and then it doesn't swivel. And you can also paint it and then just sand down this a little bit so it's not too tight. So basically we're ready for paint. I'd say one of the hardest parts is sort of done, if you want to call it that. Might not look like it, but you've probably done, I'd say, 20% of the kit, possibly more, without even doing too much. So now we're going to prep everything for paint. It's all going to be off camera, unfortunately, but I'm sure we can catch up back on the next part of the video, which will be part 2, which will be out soon. We're going to have everything primed and painted. I'll let you know the colours while we're on. So, drawbar wants to be black, chute wants to be black, pickup tines wants to be black, the back of the main body wants to be black, the spout wants to be red, pickup reel wants to be red, pickup wants to be red, main body wants to be red, auger red, the auger swivel wants to be red, auger end cap wants to be red, the pickup hitch, I'm going to go for black, could be wrong on that. If you do know, let me know in the comments and we can always change that, but for now I'm going to glue that up and do that black, and the motor, which I'll glue onto the body, which will also be red, and the ram, sorry, I'm sure we'll do that black as the drawbar, and the rear part of the body is black, so we'll do that black. So yeah, so we're going to go for, and also these two top parts of the drawbar want to be red. So I recommend using Halford's plastic primer. That's my go-to primer at the moment. It has changed sort of, unfortunately, at the moment, so it's not as good as it used to be. I haven't found a replacement yet, so for now that's what I'm going to be using. For painting, I'll say hold the auger on a rod like that and then paint it. I'll hold it like that and then hold it on a clamp like that. I'll just lightly glue it in maybe, or things like that. You don't have to. I don't really recommend gluing it in if you have to. If you sort of can have the right side rod, that'll just fit in a better way. But if it's something where you can trim it, it's not necessary, you can do that. Something like the reel where you could put your pin in, which wants to be smaller, but you can put it in one end ever so slightly, hold it, and if you trim it, you'll still be able to use the pin to actually mount it, if that makes sense. That's my top tips. Or you can hang it from your holes, hang it up and paint it that way. And then for the red, I'm just going to use cherry red. Seems to be the go-to colour. You could go and get the actual genuine colour, but cherry red seems the best for me. And the silver I'll be hand painting on with Tamiya XF16 flat aluminium, I think it is. So that's part 1, guys. I hope you enjoy the build series, and I hope you are following along. And if you are following along, do let me know. If I'm doing a few things too fast or I'm skipping a few too many parts, let me know down in the comments. It's the first sort of build series I've done like this. So if you've got any tips or areas that I can improve on, do let me know, as if you don't let me know, I can't really know where I'm going wrong. So it's also good to hear a bit of constructive criticism. So without further ado, guys, don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe. Make sure you turn on notifications so you know exactly when another video, and you know exactly when part 2 comes out. And if you are building along, make sure you get all the stages done, get it primed and painted, ready for the next episode where we'll be putting the kit together, and then hopefully the last episode will be finishing the kit off. So then, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.